way cash crisis works. Talking about Venezuela once again.
Systemic important banks. They removed the 1,000 thing on there called monetary awareness.
RTD midday check-in news quickly. Breaking news. Thought I would bring something to your attention before me and Mario connect for the live stream. And just some things. As more the pieces of the puzzle come together, it's just interesting to see how the illusion of change is what's being pushed, but all along it's some of the key players that are just running the show with by controlling the strings seem to be just shifting, just jumping ship, it seems, in a sense. I'm going to explain that in a minute. But anyway, welcome to the RTD Midday News Report. Just want to talk about the BRICS expansion plans. Meant to touch on it yesterday. Didn't get a chance to do so, but I thought I'd bring a couple of interesting subjects to your attention, just because this plays more into the de-dollarization process, which ultimately is going to be when you look back in history books, the process that we would have taken to get to that point in the future, history always leaves clues. And it's always interesting to be able to dissect things as they unfold, just to better understand where things are heading, in hopes of people being able to brace and prepare themselves as best they can, because it all has to do with currency, the fiat currencies, and where they're heading, which ultimately they're being rebranded, restructured. And so anyway, I just want to jump in real quick before I dive any further. I want to make sure I make everyone aware, especially if we have any new viewers to the channel, that I've been covering the de-dollarization process for quite some time now. And if you're interested, I have the whole little catalog of everything that I've talked about, leading to key events that have led to a much more pieces of the puzzle that people can get plugged in with. So if you're interested, click the video beneath here and you see all that stuff there. But this very one at the very top here to the left has a lot of good information as well. But all right, let me just jump right in. And, we're not wasting any more time. Also, for those that are on this live stream, if you don't mind, hit that thumbs up button, show your support for the channel. Make sure you click the subscribe button so you'll be notified when we do go live on these impromptu live streams here. But let me just jump right in, man. So this is the article that I came across yesterday. So it says, China calls for BRICS expansion. So what exactly is that talking about? So there was a gathering yesterday of the ministers of the BRICS nations, and amongst the public information that was given, they discussed a variety of things that further illustrates the desire to move away from a single point of failure, or the current reserve structure, the way that things have been set up. And so here we have the ministers talking back and forth, talking about foreign affairs. And it was some couple key buzzwords thrown out in this little snippet here. It was about interpolar or inter something or another. But once again, them needing to highlight some concerns they have. And of course, it all comes from the West. And so this article is what I want to get to. Just because it says the 5-nation bloc should add more members, is what Beijing says. And so it says China wants to expand the group of emerging economies known as BRICS. And so Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And of course, they have the Eurasia as well as the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So that comprises of approximately 20, maybe 30 different countries itself, but those are individual organizations that one's run by Russia, another one runs by China. So ultimately, they're going to bring them all under the BRICS window. And of course, with a major move like that, that will definitely come with some shocking news on the multipolar interoperable currency agreements that they're going to have to they're going to have to construct in order to execute the merge of all these nations with their variety of problems. And the only way they can avoid the same type of experimental fiasco that the EU tried to do by creating the euro, they're going to have to peg some of those currencies to real world items. And so that's why the commodities will ultimately be the underlining of all the currency agreements that might come into play. And of course, there's a possibility of some announcement of a single currency ran by the BRICS that, of course, have all the blockchain interoperability features built into it. But in order to make it so that the world will trust it and accept it, they're going to have to put something heavy on that. And of course, I think that will be pegged to gold as well. But what I really wanted to pinpoint was just more highlights from more articles as they come out. And so China announced that it's time to expand. And then not too much longer afterward, BRICS members backed China's call for an expansion. So to us, it was positioned as like a shock that China wants to expand. But then right after that, the BRICS was like, oh, yeah, sure, let's do that. So it's like, okay, clearly they're further escalating their agenda. So it says here, although other members of the groups of the developing countries supported the proposal, they have yet to name the candidate countries. And this is where it gets interesting. It says the meeting took place against the backdrop of Russia's war on Ukraine and China used to meet the criticize the Western sanctions. Okay, criticize was okay, cool. So this is where it gets interesting. This is where the shocking. There's one country that stood out the most out of all the probable countries. And so here's an article that looks like it originated from a blog source out of India. Take of it what you may, but just some countries that were listed in this blog here that really caught my attention and it's the reason why I decided to jump on real quick and just to highlight more how even though the game may appear to change, the same players still control the game. And so it says China wants to join Pakistan and the BRICS bloc should India agree. And so we know Pakistan, India, they got the conflicts going well beyond what I cover on this channel, but yet it's there. And so it says China demand expansion of BRICS of the emerging economies. India will agree to Pakistan. So Pakistan's on the radar. Okay, and of course we know about what's happening in Pakistan right now, or what's been happening in Pakistan most recently with, I think it's Iman Umar, if I'm not mistaken, and how he was ousted by the Western puppets because his close proximity and collaboration and partnership with Russia, and on top of all the other things, seems like he was definitely not too big to get booted up out of office, and so there's been unrest, protests, and stuff like that. But once again, Western bankers and Western globalists influence on politicians globally. So it's no stopping them unless you have a military possibly that can back you up. But anyway, real quickly, just share with you some countries. And, this should not come to surprise of anyone, but I'll thumb through this briefly. Let me get to the main grid. It says China has proposed BRICS expansion to partners. The proposal of the country becomes even more serious because Russia has no option but to withdraw from the proposal of China, Russia, BRICS, etc., whatever. This is very difficult to go against China. But it says, however, China has proposed to include emerging economies in the BRICS, and in the emergency economies include Indonesia, the Philippines, Israel, and Bangladesh. And so when I saw Israel, I'm thinking like, that's not really like my emerging economy, but Israel is not, it has nothing to do with the immediate surrounding borders of China and Russia. And so as a part of the Eurasian agreement, they're all former Soviet Union type countries. And then with the Shanghai Cooperation Agreement, they're all surrounding Asian countries. And of course, Bangladesh, all those countries play into that. But where does Israel come into all this? And that's why I'm like, oh, that seems very interesting. And so if Israel is a possible, inclusion into this BRICS organization, and Israel in its entirety pretty much runs the entire banking model in a sense, they have much more of an influence over the globalist agenda than what we're told. And of course, we know that based upon prior presidents, whenever Israel tells U.S. to bark and tell us to jump, we usually do that. And so it just, caught my attention. I thought it would bring it to yours, just because if Israel is really going to be included in this BRICS expansion program, then to me, it doesn't fare well in making this whole BRICS creation and move away from the dollar that genuine, because you're bringing some of the same players into what was supposed to be new and disruptive. So that leads me to really just shine more light and suspicion on how we having a changing of the guards, but the same guards just sitting at a different gate, if I may say that. And the gate meaning the payment structure and the whole monetary infrastructure that's being built or being rebranded. And how even though it may not be led by the West in reference to the Federal Reserve and EU, whatever, but yet with China and Russia picking up the slack, bringing in some of the same old players, it still doesn't equal freedom and opportunity for the people in its entirety. So, But anyway, I just wanted to check in for a quick minute, share my 2 cents, and just bring to some, I think what I think could be interesting information. And so we'll see if it develops that way. But once again, bringing Israel into the fold is a definite, will be a no-no, in my opinion, if they were sincere in trying to get away from the Western globalist, because that just doesn't fare well, in my opinion, and making this movement seem genuine. So that's why I'm very suspicious, because we're being told that this is a great reset, but in actuality, it's just a restructuring into the hands of different players. And we know how the goal is to model the Chinese model of surveillance state, social credit score, and all that stuff that's happening in that region. They want to make that a global norm. So anyway, thought I would just share this real quick. Check in. So everybody who's plugged in right now, if you haven't hit the thumbs up button, show your support for the channel, leave your thoughts down here and bring it to the Mike and Mario show, which will be going live in about 30 minutes or so. So let's pick up the same topic. Mario got some thoughts to share in as well on this. So let's pick up again in 30 minutes for the Mike and Mario show. Definitely love to discuss this further. So see you guys in a moment. Peace.
The next recession.
Recession will be a recession.
We're going to hit a recession.
The date of the next recession.
A U.S.-only recession typically lasts 8 to 10 months.
A crash is coming. Now, whether it's 6 months from now, 12 months, 36 months, no one knows.
If you have the right plan to set up, you can make a lot of money from this.